In Britain, employment is touching new highs. Prices have risen faster than any other European countries, and yet wages, adjusted for the cost of living, have been flat for a decade. But the new living wage will be a disaster, say a growing chorus of business executives in the UK. From next April, the mandatory living wage has been set at £7.20 per hour for those over 25 years old, replacing the current minimum wage of £6.50, with plans to rise to £9 per hour by 2020. The living wage proposes to support a decent standard of living in the UK. This is a gamble by the Chancellor George Osborne, who hopes work will become more appealing to benefit claimants and the unemployed. Some hail it as a small step towards restoring morale and dignity to key members of the UK workforce, increasing productivity, reducing recruitment costs for businesses. UK business executives are sceptical, claiming it will result in higher prices, redundancies, older people being replaced by youngsters. The heads of big businesses such as Whitbread Breweries and Costa Coffee have joined bosses of Next and Manpower to meet this week, claiming that UK citizens will be paying more for their lagers and lattes next year. A lobby group for regional and international business leaders, the CBI, says companies are threatening to reduce working hours and replace people with technology in response, and implying that low-paid workers will be replaced by school leavers who are cheaper but will not have the necessary people skills required to give good service. The Financial Times says there are 5 ways for companies to afford the living wage: raise prices, move work abroad, employ more under 25-year-olds, replace workers with machines, or reduce corporate profits. Bankruptcy, of course, is another option, and perhaps the reason executives appear not to be addressing the 5th point in their proposals. Price hikes is the topic most loudly being discussed by businesses in the UK at present. JD Wetherspoon pub chain chairman Tim Martin says it's inevitable that prices in some pubs will have to go up. He warns that this in turn will increase the differential between prices paid for beer in the pub and in the supermarkets, and this will inevitably lead to more pub closures. The former CEO of Sainsbury's Supermarket bravely said that the significant pay inflation filled by the living wage would not lead to increased productivity, but fewer jobs, as companies will plan to offshore. Recent drops in unemployment have come with a higher proportion of low-paid jobs that could be outsourced abroad if wages are increased. New technologies could also amplify the effect of a wage hike on employment. Major providers are beginning to automate an increasing number of roles in efforts to protect their profits. Given expanding opportunities for automation, firms may use the higher minimum wage as an excuse to reorganise production and shed roles traditionally carried out by systems administrators. On an international comparison, the wage rise is significant. Figures from the OECD, the Paris-based group which aims to promote sustainable growth, shows that the decision to raise the minimum wage to 60% of the national median moves the UK from the middle of the pack towards the top of the global wages league. Higher than average wages concern economists, who believe it leads to reduced employment. However, research in the States presents evidence that past minimum wage increases did not reduce employment as expected. Academics worldwide continue to trade studies on whether a minimum wage costs jobs, but opinion remains divided and studies contradictory. One might expect countries that do not impose a minimum wage to have a low average salary, but OECD figures suggest otherwise. Austria, Denmark, Norway and Switzerland all have higher average wages than the UK without having a minimum wage. Instead, these countries adopt collective bargaining agreements, resulting in higher wages for the low-paid and a smaller gap between rich and poor. The UK can learn from other places who have already experimented with the minimum wage. Take recent event in Seattle, where last June the council adopted a 58% hike in the minimum wage to $15 by 2017, with as a first step an increase to $11 in April. 1,300 jobs were lost in the restaurant industry, which was booming elsewhere. UK businesses most affected by the living wage will likely be small local firms such as convenience stores and pubs. People most affected will be the young, the unskilled, the inexperienced, or the aspiring migrant relocating from across the globe to the UK in hope of improved job prospects. In conclusion, many interrelated variables are at play which make it hard even for sophisticated economists to unambiguously calculate the extent of the job destruction that follows major rises in the minimum wage, but a massive hike in the UK's minimum wage will likely exclude a significant number of people from the world of work.